And I thought I'd read another one of my short stories. It's called The Storm, and it was inspired by a hotel I'd stayed in the west of Ireland, and the action takes place in a hotel in the west of Ireland. The morning was sunny, the sea was sparkling, and Oliver should have been on his way back to London. The thought of the turkey he'd eaten the previous evening made him feel sick again. Fried turkey. He ought to have known better. That was Ireland after all, he moaned and hurried into the bathroom. When he got back into bed, he looked at his watch. He'd have to phone the office and tell them that he and Angie wouldn't be in tomorrow. But wait. Best wait until 5 o'clock and speak to Jock. Then he'd find out exactly how things were. God, he shouldn't be here, not at a crucial time like this. It had been Angie's idea to come to Connemara. I hate Christmas in London, she'd said. The break will do us both good. Besides, I'd like to see my parents. All right, so his parents live in a council flat, but he'd been smart. He hadn't worked his balls off to get out of the East End, only to get entangled with an Irish girl whose parents lived in a hovel. Even if her salary would be more than his this year. That rankled. He'd have to phone Jack and best wait till Jack got home. He set the alarm for 6 o'clock in case he fell asleep. No use relying on that stupid bitch in reception to waken him. The hotel was on a rugged island linked to the mainland by a narrow causeway and looked lovely from the distance. But it had turned out to be more than a broken down mausoleum. Apparently it had been well known once when up to 40 porters were needed to meet the guests off the Dublin train. But that was a long time ago. He looked at his watch again. Only 11:15. Where the hell was Angie? A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows and he saw dark clouds scudding in across the sea. The weather here changed so quickly. Fine 1 minute, pouring with rain the next. A sharp knock on the door aroused him from an uncanny sleep. An uneasy story, an uneasy sleep. He had a splitting headache now too. Come in, he called. I left your room till last, she said. They say you're not well. Feeling better? The woman wore a shabby black dress. Oliver nodded. A good rest will see you right, she smiled encouragingly. The weather's turning bad too. Is it raining again? Beginning to, and the wind is getting up. Suddenly she looked worried and went over to the window. My son's gone fishing, she said. I pray every time he goes out. The sea's cruel. It whips up in a lash. She peered at him closely. My, you do look sick. Take a drop of tea. It'll just settle your stomach. She sounded like his mother and looked a bit like her too. My friend will get me something when she gets back. Gone to the chemist, has she? No, for a walk. The woman's sympathetic glance made him feel even more abandoned than ever. Where in places was Angie? Soon after the woman left the room, he heard the wind whistling down the hotel corridor and the rain drumming against the wind. Where in blazes was Angie? He pulled the bedclothes up around his ears and fell asleep. Any better? Angie's cheerful voice woke him. She had eaten turkey too, but it hadn't made her sick. She had a lucky streak, no doubt about it. Everyone in the office said so, and her New Year's bonus would be more than his. He mustn't forget to ring Jock at 6. Feeling any better, she repeated, fussing with his bedclothes. No. He was better, but to blazes. She shouldn't have gone out and left him. Why wasn't she sick too? You seem brighter. God, I've never seen anyone so ill. I thought you'd bring your whole inside up. She pulled her face. Did you phone the office? He shook his head. Why won't you let me? I want to have a word with Jock. Suddenly she smiled. Worried about our bonus, are we? He scowled. The bonus was only part of it. He was in a complete mess. Couldn't do anything right these days. And that blasted turkey last night was just another example of the run of bad luck he'd been having lately. Why did it have to come just now with all the talk of redundancies? He hadn't been able to put one foot wrong up to last summer. The man in them with the Midas touch, they'd called him. His bonus last year had put everyone else's in the shade. Life had been a ball. What would he do if he was made redundant? What sort of job could he get? He'd no professional qualifications, none whatsoever. But what he did have was a flair for the futures market, or at least he had before this run of bad luck set in. What could he put his hand to now? Certainly not a plumber like his father. His parents had scrimped and saved to send him to grammar school, and afterwards he'd work day and night until all that matters was money and success. His parents were so proud of him and his spectacular success, and the trappies that came with him, the expensive apartment by the Thames, the black BMW, the designer clothes. Maybe he could start again from scratch. He was only 28 after all, not like Mike, who was 40 and burnt out and couldn't get a job. He'd been so shocked to see how Mike had come down on the world, sitting in that grubby bedsit with nothing to do all day except wait for the pubs to open. The boom's over, they'd said in the office at first. At first it sounded like a bad joke, but nobody was laughing now. Want anything, Angie asked. He'd forgotten she was there. He shook his head. She glanced at her watch. I'll go downstairs then and get something to eat. So I won't be long. Don't come back till about 7. I want to sleep. What about phoning the office? I'll phone them. Now, let's take a little rest. Cheers.